Welcome to Politics Enhanced. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. And before we begin, I would just like to ask that you please click the like button down below, subscribe, leave a comment, and anyways, let's get started. So today, I was thinking that we would do our very first presidential election prediction to see who is really going to win this election. And I think as of right now, it's definitely favored to be Donald Trump as the victor. But we're going to go through the data and we're really going to see who is going to win this election as of right now based off of current polling. But without further ado, let's fill in the states that are going Republican no matter what. We have, right, the Great Plains states, Utah, the Dakotas, you have Nebraska, the South. We'll leave Georgia blank for now. I do believe that Iowa and Ohio will also be safe. I'll get into that more later when we talk about the Rust Belt, which is this region up here. But I do believe that, Ohio, Iowa, Florida, and Texas will also be safe for Donald Trump. Maine's first congressional district, Trump flipped this in 2016. It's only shifted redder. And Alaska. Now, for the Democrats, I believe that unfortunately they will be taking the entire West Coast. They will be taking all of the East Coast. I'll leave New Hampshire blank. New York is an interesting circumstance. I do think that they're going to get closer to losing the state, but I don't know if Donald Trump will flip it this time around. I know we've seen some recent polling that suggests that maybe Trump does have a chance at winning New York. I just don't know if that's possible. No Republican has won it since Reagan in 1984. So I'm not going to mark it as safe. I do think it'll be closer, but I don't think Trump will win it. But it's definitely going for Biden this time around, but it's going to be closer. We also have Illinois. I forgot about that. Hawaii, the fires I don't think are going to have much of an impact in terms of who people vote for, but we'll see. And then Colorado has just drifted off a cliff and it's moved vastly to the left. And I don't think you're going to see a Republican win that state for a very long time. I also forgot to mark Indiana as a safe Republican state. So now we're left with the real battlegrounds for this election. And first of all, I would like to start with the Rust Belt, and then we'll work our way through the rest of the country. So let's start with the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a very interesting state. And the reason why Wisconsin is so interesting is because that Biden won this state by less than 1%. And if we look at this map, we'll see in 2020, Biden only won it by literally 0.5%, 0.6% to be precise. And Biden also won the popular vote by 4.5 percentage points, which is a lot, especially given how polarized we are today. So with this in mind, Biden won it by less than 1%. He also won the popular vote by a significant margin. That means that Wisconsin is roughly 3 points, almost 4 points to the right of the nation. And the reason why I say this is, again, there is a correlation between the popular vote and, the margins of each state. And specifically when you're looking at swing states where only a few voters and a fraction of them decide the election, it's important to take that into consideration. Now, current polling suggests that Trump is leading the popular vote, and he's leading it by about 3%. So if that's the case, Trump is likely to win Wisconsin by about 3%. So that would put it in the lean category, which would be the first flip of the evening for Donald Trump. Next, we have Michigan. And Michigan is an interesting state too, because it was always pretty Democratic, at least on a presidential level, since the 1980s, until Trump's shocking victory in 2016, where he barely won the state. He won it by 0.2%. I mean, he won it by 16,000 votes. Clinton won the popular vote by 2%. That was definitely the victory of the night. This time around, in 2020, the last election, Biden won it by almost 3%. And as of right now, Trump is leading the popular vote. You do have the whole Gaza-Israel conflict, and that is definitely shifting a lot of Middle Easterners over to Trump. Definitely not a majority, but you do have quite a large population of Middle Eastern Americans in the state of Michigan. And ultimately, I do believe that if Trump can win it in 2016, he can definitely win it in 2024. Trump is doing much better with minority voters this cycle, but I do think it's going to be very close. And I think Trump wins it by about 1%, give or take a little bit here or there. Next, we have Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania is, Trump has a very high ceiling and a low floor. And no matter what happens, I believe Trump's floor is about 47% in terms of winning the popular vote. Now, last time around, Biden won this state by about 1.5%. And even though Biden won by 4.5 percentage points, he barely won Pennsylvania. Trump barely won Pennsylvania. This is definitely a wild card state. There's a lot on the table. And ultimately, I do believe that Trump is going to win it by about 2.5 percentage points, and it's going to be lean for Trump. And the reason why is, you look at the western part of the state next to Ohio. Ohio has shifted vastly to the right in the last 8 years. We've seen on a gubernatorial level, presidential level, Senate, House level, Ohio has really shifted to the right. Now you're probably wondering, why does this affect Pennsylvania? Because Pennsylvania is trending more so to the right, certainly to the right of the nation. And we see that in the popular vote and, how Biden won it and by what margin in 2020, and likewise for Trump in 2016. But the western part is very much like Ohio, and specifically in this area here, you have a lot of coal country, you have lots of fossil fuels being drilled there. It's a very big oil state, and I think a lot of voters there are dissatisfied with Biden's handling of drilling for oil, and him wanting to not go forward with fracking and so on and so forth. His energy policies are very unpopular in the state of Pennsylvania. So for that reason, I think Trump wins it by 2.5 percentage points. Now we're going to move over to the Southwest, and we're going to start with the state of Nevada. Now in 2020, Biden won Nevada by 2.4%. And in 2016, Clinton won it by 2.4%. So it's taking a long time for Nevada to shift. This used to be a very conservative state, and then in 2008, Obama won it, and it sort of just has slowly trended right for the Republicans, but nobody has won it on a presidential level since George Bush. However, this time around, I do think Trump will be the first Republican since 2004 to win it. And I think he wins it by around 2 to 3 percentage points, which would put it in the lean column for Trump. As I said earlier, he's doing really good with Hispanics. He just needs to improve his margins ever so slightly in the Las Vegas and Reno area. He really needs to get out that suburban vote, and hopefully he'll choose a vice president that encourages the suburbanites to come out and vote for Trump. Next up, we have Arizona. And Arizona is an extremely close state. This state has shifted away from the Republicans in recent years. You've seen a Democrat governor, Democratic senators. They voted for Biden in 2020. Definitely not really a Republican friendly state like it used to be. Arizona voted Republican, I think, in every election except for 1996 and 2020. So that really tells you how much the state has trended in the last 8 years. Trump won it by 3.5 in 2016. Ultimately, because Trump is winning the popular vote, I do think that Republicans can make one final stand in the state of Arizona, but it's going to be extremely close. And I think that Trump wins it by less than 0.5%. And then after that, I'm not sure. We'll have to see what the polling says in 2028 and beyond. But this state is moving away from Republicans. But I do think that this time around, given how unpopular Joe Biden is, his policies, and especially his recent debate performance, Trump's got Arizona for now. But that could definitely change in the future. I also wanted to talk about New Mexico because a lot of people are saying that Trump can win the state of New Mexico. I just don't see that being possible because it is a very elastic state, but it's also very Democrat. And again, Bush won. He barely won New Mexico in 2004 by like 6,000 votes. So it was a very narrow victory, and that's when he won the popular vote nationwide, and he did really good in the swing states. So for that reason, I think that Trump is going to lose New Mexico, but he's only going to lose it by about 3 to 5 percentage points. I think it goes lean for Biden this cycle. Just because Trump is doing better with Hispanics, he's doing good across the board with minorities. Next, I'd like to move on to the state of Georgia, which, in my opinion, is the most likely state to flip because it's a southern state and Biden barely won this state in 2020. He won it by the skin of his teeth. It was the closest state. Personally, I think it was an absolute fluke that Biden won this state. I'm not saying that anything happened there. I don't want to get banned by YouTube, but I think it was just a fluke that he won it. And I think this time around, Trump's going to win it 4 to 6 points. He's very well liked in the state of Georgia. That would put it in the likely column. I'll put it lean just to be safe because, we can't really predict this far out exactly what the margin will be. But if the election was held right now, I think it would go lean for Trump, say 4.5 points. North Carolina, that's another state I wanted to talk about because a lot of Republicans and people, pundits in the media, Democrats, they all think that Biden can win the state because he won Georgia and Trump only won North Carolina by about 1% in 2020. However, again, 2020 was a really bad year for Republicans. Biden, let's see, he won the popular vote by 4.5. That's even more than Obama in 2012, by the way. So the fact that Trump was able to hold on to this state really showcases that, it's kind of like, what would be a good example? It's kind of like how New Mexico is for the Democrats or Virginia. But I do think that North Carolina is going to go for Trump by 5 to 7 points. He's winning the popular vote. He's loved in North Carolina. He's going to win it. And that leaves us with 3 states left: Minnesota, Virginia, and New Hampshire. Now, these are really the wild card states. If Trump wins any one of these three states, he's winning in a landslide. Because these are states, specifically I'm looking at Minnesota, has not gone for a Republican since Jimmy Carter. Okay? Virginia, on the other hand, hasn't gone Republican since 2004. New Hampshire hasn't gone Republican since 2000. So these are very left-leaning states, that used to vote for both parties on a presidential level but drifted away for the Democrats. We're going to start off with the state of Virginia, and we're going to see. So in 2020, Biden had an unprecedented victory in this state. He won it by 10 points, safe margin, almost like Colorado. Biden won it by almost 14, but Biden won Virginia by 10 points. Now, if you look at 2016, Clinton won it by 5. So Virginia has definitely trended to the left. But recently, we've seen polling that suggests that Donald Trump is within striking distance in the state of Virginia, that he's within the margin of error, and that he could potentially pull off a surprise victory in this state. However, we have to look at the 2021 gubernatorial election where Glenn Youngkin barely won by about 2 percentage points, and that was a huge upset and one of the only major Republican electoral victories in recent years was in the state of Virginia. And this cycle, it may definitely be closer, but I don't see Trump winning this state as of now. So I'm going to have to put it, I do think it's going to get closer, and I think it could be, if Trump's winning by 3 points nationally, I think Virginia could be, a 2.5 point victory for Biden. I'll put it lean Democrat. I do think it'll be much closer, but sadly, you have the Northern Virginia area. A lot of government workers live there, and that's really pushed the state over the edge into the Democrat column. Now I'd like to move on to New Hampshire. So New Hampshire is a very elastic state that surprisingly does not like incumbents. However, it's voted Democratic on a presidential level for many years. Even though they have a Republican governor and he won in a relatively landslide election, he won by a lot. New Hampshire is one of those states that just doesn't like incumbents. It almost voted for Trump in 2016. It then voted for Biden in 2020 by 8 points. It didn't really, it hasn't voted Republican, but I do think that because of all the Bostoners and people on the East Coast who've moved up to New Hampshire, I do think that it will still go to Biden, but I do think that it'll be by a tilt margin because New Hampshire really doesn't like incumbents. And with Trump's favorability this cycle, I think he'll win the state of New Hampshire. And that leaves us with one last state, the state of Minnesota. Now, Minnesota is one of the longest Democratic streaked states in the country, and it hasn't voted Republican since 1972 for Richard Nixon. This time around, I think something could be shaken up in the political arena because Trump almost won this state in 2016. Clinton only won it by 1.5 percentage points. In 2020, Biden won it by 7, but that was in a very Democratic year. So if we look back at 2016, Clinton only won the popular vote nationwide by 2. So again, if Trump is winning the popular vote, if he's doing really well in the Rust Belt, and if everything, the stars align, so to speak, for Trump, right? He wins Arizona, he's winning all the swing states, he got Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. It's so hard to tell, but I do think that Trump would eke out an extremely narrow victory and finally break the Democrat streak in the state of Minnesota. That would be shocking. So that's my first prediction. I think that Trump is going to win the election by 323 electoral votes to Biden's 215. And let me know what you guys think down below. If you like the video, please like, comment, and subscribe for more content. And as always, thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Stay tuned for more updates and take care.